Jurgen, what's your protocol going, and how do you deal with addressing a new squad?
Well, obviously there's the collective talk with the entire team and about your expectations and about the way you work and how you want to go forward. But then I think it's very important that you meet one-on-one with players. You know, maybe not with everyone in the first week. That's a lot of meetings. That's a lot of. I mean, I love to meet the players over a cup of espresso. You know, that would probably keep me then awake for a couple of weeks. So, no, I think it is important, you know, to have one-on-one conversations. On here and there, you know, maybe you make a choice and you talk to 4 or 5 leader players of your team. You know, I think, you know, they're running the show in the locker room. They look after the younger ones. But I think it's obviously today far more important than maybe 20, 30 years ago is to have a good positive way of communicating with your players, that they understand where they're at, you know, what you expect from them, and also maybe here and there some advice how they can improve their own individual performance over time. And therefore, I think it's nowadays it's far more common that you have these one-on-ones than, as I said, 30 years ago.
Yeah. What we had was, that I can remember, is tribal council, essentially. Right. And it's a group that Jurgen is talking about. 4 or 5 of what are perceived to be leaders of the team meet with those guys. After you met with the collective, then you go to tribal council. Now, see, this is what happens as well. If you're an original member of tribal council...
Now, people might not know, maybe people don't watch Survivor.
Right, well, essentially, you're getting people around, sitting around the fire, voting as to who's off. Right? Okay? You go to tribal council, and you're one of these members, one of these original members, right? And then all of a sudden, by the 2nd or 3rd week, you don't get a call back to the meeting.
Okay.
You know.
Right.
You now have gotten a clear message from the manager that perhaps, you're not part of this group any longer. And I think players in the locker room know as well, like who's running this locker room. And if you have been voted off, right, figuratively, if you've been voted off tribal council, now you've lost power in that locker room as well.
How would the one-on-one with you go, Shaq? You all right?
I'm still trying to figure out what tribal council is. Thanks. I had no idea. I had no idea what you were talking about, Fro.
The show is only 30 years old, that's all.
Well, listen, back in our day, again, there would be no one-on-ones. Certainly, or there'd be very few with 3 or 4 players, 3 or 4 of the more important players in the
right, that word's banned now.
I don't know what that is. The best the majority could hope for is, you know, a passing conversation on the training park. Right. You know, you're walking off together and the manager walks beside you, you have a chat one-on-one for 30 seconds in full view of everybody else, but that's about as good as it got.
How did you deal with it, Stevie, when you were coaching?
I was thinking of one of the things that you do, but you actually don't mean at all. And I wouldn't have any tribal council either. Right. Because I think you're setting yourself up for what Ali's talking about.
Yes.
What was that?
But this whole open door policy, I used to use it all the time as well.
But hoping that no one would walk through it.
Hoping that nobody came near at all. I completely discouraged it. But I would do most of it on the training field. Shaq is talking about, you know, just picking your moments, picking your times, whether it's on the training field, whether it's in an airport somewhere, just... You pick and choose your times to talk to people that will have an influence in the dressing room.
Right.
And not always the same one. You've got to involve a few. But, yeah, no one-on-ones, no thanks.
But you also need to know who are the players that you can talk to. You need to know who in this group really carries some weight and who's going to take in the information, who you can be negative with, who you have to be positive with, who you have to put your arm around his shoulder, who needs a kick in the backside. And that's a dynamic that is difficult for a manager when you're just getting there, because you're getting to know your players. And that's why I don't think they're one-on-ones, because you don't really know who you're approaching and how to approach this specific person, because you don't quite know his personality just yet. And it's a balancing act. You want to get your system out there. You want to get your style of play out there. And you don't have the time to be going, hey, I want you to do this, and I want you to do this, and I want you to do this. It's not, listen, you come in as a new manager on Wednesday and you're having to play on Saturday. So there are a lot of things that you need to get through. The one-on-ones, that's why they don't happen.
What was interesting, Ange Postecoglou talking about his style of coaching, Jurgen, was that he doesn't want to get too close to players because he doesn't want personal feelings to affect professional decisions.
Yeah, I understand that, but I think the players, they are smart enough to read a manager and to see when he gets emotional, how he feels, during the games, after the games, before the games. I mean, managers are also just human beings as well. They're nervous, they're anxious. They want to do well. They want to do well for everybody. Another big role for a manager nowadays is not only the man management of your players. It's how you actually run an entire group of people that are around the players. So you have to handle I would say, in a national team level, you're about 60, 70 people. 25 of them are players. The other ones is the medical stuff, it's the media stuff, it's the marketing stuff, it's administrative stuff, and there's so much going on, and you have to make sure that the energy from these people that are not on the field is positive, is good, is convincing, is confident. Because if you have there some naysayers, some negative people bringing bad karma into your overall environment, you will end up in a mess. So the role of a manager today has changed dramatically. But I think that the players are really smart. They know what's going on, inside also the coaching staff. They know what's going on a bit in the brain of a manager and what he wants, how he feels. And I wouldn't be worried if a player kind of would read me extremely well, and I wouldn't give anything away in that moment that at the end of the day would not be okay. I don't think that's a problem.
Can I say, as a player, I never took any decision a manager made personally. That's part of their job.
You still do it now, Shaq.
I've been dropped a lot. I've taken none of those decisions personally. I understood that the manager has a job to do. He has to do the best of his ability, and he calls it as he sees it. And I never felt otherwise.
I can't imagine what it must be like, because having an outside staff of about almost 40, Jurgen saying there, I'd hate that. I mean, when I was at the Revs, I purposely kept a small staff because it was easier for everybody to be in that position that Jurgen's talking about, how their energy has to be a certain way and how they have to be a certain way in front of the players and a certain way with us. So I like to have a small staff, whether it was the physios, the masseurs or the press. There was probably about 10 of us, and we were real tight, and we would be together socially as well. I cannot imagine having to deal with 30-odd people and have them all try to go in the same direction. Because the more people you got, the more mouths you've got, the more people try and think on their own, think they should be doing something they shouldn't be doing, and it makes it so much harder to be on top of it. I can't imagine that many people.